Dan, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here, Steve.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. Talk about clot removal technologies. We can start with some of the unmet needs in pulmonary embolisms. We know when a clot travels to the lungs, it's a very high mortality rate, and then we can go through your tech platform, and then maybe some updates on clinicals and funding.
Yeah, no, sounds awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get to it. I'm looking forward to the tech platform in particular, the going in smaller and funneling and agitation. But let's first start out with this, the unmet need in the treatment of pulmonary embolisms.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the most exciting spaces, I think, in cardiovascular care. We're talking about a space that affects many more people than is widely understood. It is pulmonary embolism is the third leading cause of cardiovascular death. So, and when you rank it in your mind, normally, if you spend a lot of time in medtech, you don't often think that, right?
Mm.
You'd come up with a few other things first. So, it happens all the time. Unfortunately, it happens to kind of lots of different people in lots of periods of life. Many of the things we treat are, people come in with multiple chronic diseases, right? Kind of often and later stage of life. Here we have people that are just post surgery, postpartum, maybe have cancer, maybe have just been on a plane for too long, right, and gotten into a prothrombotic state. They may have had a DVT that's just moving from the leg into the pulmonary artery. So, uh, you know, what's different for me personally is that it really feels like if we can save these patients, right? Instead of going on and having a year, 2, 5 years, these people can have decades. They can be
Mm.
20, they can be 30. So it's super important to, when appropriate, get them into the cath lab, treat them efficiently, safely, get them out of the cath lab, avoid the ICU, and get them home, right? Because you just want them to go back to their daily life. They were walking through the airport and fell down. You want them to get where they were flying to, right?
Yeah.
And go back to their life and hopefully have no sequelae, right? And that's not always the case, but I think it's a little bit different patient population than maybe people think about. And so there's a lot to do because it's underpenetrated when it comes to mechanical thrombectomy, and it's traditionally been hard to get people diagnosed and kind of into care fast enough.
Some of the challenges with the predicates, like blood thinners and things like that, are there issues there with bleeding and such?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally been treated with anticoagulation,
Yeah.
and anticoagulation doesn't get rid of the clot. It just keeps you from forming more clot, right? So you're not really fixing the problem. You're stabilizing the patient, and hopefully their processes ultimately get rid of the problem. There's also using thrombolytics,
Mm.
which carries risks of particularly bleeding and brain bleeding. And traditionally, these patients often ended up in the ICU for days and days, right?
Okay.
Being observed until they died or got better. And so that's where mechanical thrombectomy has come in. Really, developed in some ways by Inari and Penumbra, who did a great job of proving that we can go in with catheters and we could take the clot out, but people can avoid the ICU completely. And frankly, normally these patients feel a lot of relief, sometimes relief on the table.
Hmm.
So it's a situation where we can use all the catheter technology we've developed for many other things, including stroke. We can apply it to this situation and really help people avoid a catastrophic event, but also avoid an extended and frankly pretty scary ICU stay. And the hospitals are happy with this. They're freeing up the ICU beds, which is often a problem
Mhm.
of under capacity, as it were, and just the cost of it, of the traditional pathway of treatment has been a lot. So this is a situation where hospitals are typically happy to see mechanical thrombectomies occur. Patients get out of the hospital fast, and it's advantageous from a reimbursement perspective. Obviously patients feel better, faster. Physicians have more cases on the calendar, which is why they're in the
Mm.
hospital anyway, is to do cases. And it's an opportunity, frankly, for a lot of medtech innovation,
Yeah.
because the incumbent technologies have done a great job of establishing the market and the foundation, and they've run some great randomized trials, and we can see the guidelines changing. But fundamentally, they're the incumbent technologies, and like in many spaces, we feel like, well, we know when you ask customers, you ask users what they want in technology, they want more features. They don't want the trade-offs that exist with the current technologies. That's not me speaking. That's bona fide, referenceable data, that they want certain features or combinations of features that don't exist today. So, and that's where E2 comes in.
Excellent. Yeah, you're checking off all the boxes, right? From a patient standpoint, ambulation, being home with their family sooner, less burden on the system as well, the healthcare system. Let's go over the tech platform, if that would be okay with you.
No, absolutely. I mean, so the tech platform is a unique combination of technologies. Okay, and you have to think about what our goal is here. So, and I'll take you back to some common concepts. I think in med tech in general is that if it's difficult, and it is often difficult to show superiority when it comes to efficacy and safety. I mean, we have actually few devices where we really see that. Oftentimes, we run a lot of non-inferiority studies, so the efficacy and safety data tends to look same often. But when that is true, what happens? We always preference over time smaller, faster, safer, and greater procedural efficiency.
Yes.
If we look at, like, you know, spent a fair amount of time in the early days of TAVR. My first case, I remember we had 14 people in the room. It took 4 hours to do. It's only a few people in the room and less than an hour to do today.
Mm-hmm.
And almost every technology is like this. We just make it lower profile. We make it simpler and easier for the staff to do. We require fewer people to do it. We maybe require less clinical support over time. And it's also less complicated, right? Physicians feel more control. They have more control. And ultimately, things are going to move faster and quicker through the hospital. So that's what we're trying to get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how have we done it? Well, we've combined really three concepts here, right? Which is, one, we have a funnel at the end of the catheter that is able to engage clot with a 24 French clot engagement set.
Okay.
So that's very similar to the large bore catheter today's that are out there, right? So a 24 French clot engagements on the tip of the catheter. Today, the choices have been either have a large bore catheter that can obviously pull larger clot through it because it's got a bigger hole, right? Or you had to choose a small bore catheter that was maybe more maneuverable, but less ability to pull in clot, right? And so what we've done here is basically said, what is the clot C? The clot C is 24 French, right? But inside that funnel is an agitator. And that agitator, as the clot is coming into the funnel through aspiration, so vacuum is pulling the clot into the funnel, this element is remodeling the clot. And by remodeling the clot, it's putting it in a situation where it can be sucked through a smaller bore catheter. So our catheter is a 15 French catheter across the heart. And that's the balance. In this case, you have an enlarged and stressed right heart. You have to pass through the tricuspid and the pulmonary valve to get from the venous access to where the clots are, right? So you're resting this catheter across a stressed heart for quite a bit of time, right? If you think about it that way. And so the lower profile of the device, the happier physicians are. That's just true in interventional medicine. So we're giving them a very low profile because the clot is remodeled that passes through, but we're giving them the clot ingestion that they want in terms of being able to attack big, nasty clots. And the other piece of it is that this is a catheter that you can control from the handle. And that means that when you put it in once, right, you arrive over a wire and introducer, take the wire and introducer out, And from that point on, the physician has complete control over where the catheter goes within the pulmonary arteries. So if he starts in the top right and he's got a big clot over here to take out, and then another one in the bottom left, the physician can navigate that catheter from one side to the other without removing it, without doing a pass, without taking it all the way out of the body or taking it down to the heart. They're just going to flip it and drive it based off of the controls on a handle. And what that means is that you're just very calm and controlled. You're not using wires in and out because that can cause perforations, which are devastating in these patients. And you're basically able to control the procedure in a very efficient and calm way. And so it's the combination of this clot ingestion zone, so big mouth, small catheter across the heart, and control and navigation of the technology that essentially is the huge differentiator, added to, on the back end, an extremely efficient blood return system. And blood return is quite interesting in this case. So blood return is, blood removal is part of aspiration, right? When you are doing aspiration, you are taking blood out of the body, fundamental. You hope that there's clot in the blood you're taking out, but you're definitely taking blood out of the body. In many cases, you don't take very much out, but there's a substantial number of cases where you are taking out a lot of blood, which can do two things. One, it can decompensate the patient, requiring an infusion. Okay. Or second, you end up stopping the case before you've gotten all the clot that you want out because you're scared about how much blood you've taken out.
Okay.
Right. And that may be okay in the early stages of a therapy when you're doing your first patients and Inari launched without a blood return system. And then they developed a blood return system because they saw a patient need and, amazing work there to do that. And for those physicians using that system, blood return, they see it as essential. And we think it will become to be like a seatbelt. There was a time when we drove cars, right, without seatbelts, and we typically got where we wanted to go and came back safely. And the people, when seatbelts came out, they said, I don't need that. But fundamentally, people began to understand a few things. And one key one is, Steve, you probably don't, you probably aren't happy just to drive to the grocery store 3 or 4 blocks without your seatbelt on.
Right.
You don't put your seatbelt on just because you're getting on the highway. You know that any drive, you don't know if you're backing out of the driveway or you're going, 95 miles on the highway, 95 miles on the highway, when the accident's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the same thing is here. When you start a case, you don't know if more clot's going to arrive. You don't know if clot's going to move. So the ability to kind of, no matter what, put blood back in is pivotal, frankly. And it's something that we think should be standard. We've gone through the process of proving that we can return blood well. And we've also gone through the process, which no other company has done, and published on it, or at least presented it in late-breaking trials, that on the quality of the blood on the bench and also in cases, to show that it's not, when we take it out through the catheter system, we filter it and we put it back in, that it is high quality blood, that it is safe blood to put in. And that's really key, because there have been some questions about that in the community. And I think it's incumbent upon the companies to say, okay, you got questions, we've done the work, here are the answers. And when we think about the clinical data, and how we measure, are all these features that we're talking about the right features? Do they work the way we think? It hasn't been published yet, but it will. We've been able to show in our trial that we, using the refined modified Miller score, which is what everybody else has been using to show the reduction in clot burden after a case, we have the highest reduction in refined modified Miller score of any technology out there. And when you take a 15 French catheter across the heart and you're able to do that, I think that's a demonstration that you're going in small and acting big, right?
Absolutely.
We've also published that we have the lowest level of blood loss of any of the technologies out there, 10 mLs in a case. So, that's how you get there, is not with one change in the technology. You're not trying to add one feature. You're trying to re-engineer the whole system using multiple stack technologies, interactive technologies, to arrive at something that gives you, takes away the trade-offs. So allows you to do low profile catheter, allows you to take out a lot of clot, allows you to do blood return in an efficient way, and in a way where you feel like it's very safe because you've seen the blood data that comes out. So this is taking, technologies always work like this. You start out with safety and efficacy, as we talked about. You talk about, sometimes you don't have all the feature sets. Sometimes it's a little clumsy. That's why you do generation after generation. But the point is to arrive at something. You don't want a BlackBerry. You want an iPhone 15.
Yeah.
Right. And, you maybe, I always talk about it this way. I don't know what you drove when you turned 16, or what the first car you had. I had a beat up Pontiac, brown Pontiac Sunbird, right? I think we're all maybe a little bit nostalgic about the first car we drove.
Yeah.
I think the first car we drove got us to, it had 4 wheels, a steering wheel. It got us where we wanted to go and got us back, right?
Yep.
If and it's great, and it does the job. If you think about what your car does today and the features your car has today, anti-lock brakes, navigation, it's, perhaps it drives itself, right?
Yeah.
We're not, but even though you love that car you had first, there's no way you would trade in for the car that you drive today for that car. This is innovation. It's where we all want to go. Make it fast, make it easy, make it simple, right? So people can do it in the middle of the night without really thinking about it when they're tired. They don't have to call somebody to do necessarily, and that the patients are going to get all the care they need all the time. So you're not going to stop a case early because you've had to take out a lot of blood, right? So we want to be able to treat everybody, and we want to treat them with the feature set that people have said they want. So
excellent. Yeah, first car, a beat up Chevy Impala, big, huge boat. Yeah,
awesome.
Loved it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought that up. I always think, a lot of steel, big trunk. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for going through that. Let me see if I can. We'll keep it on. It's okay.
And so
Yeah.
we said at the beginning, maybe we talk about the clinical data. I mentioned some of it in the sense of being able to show, we ran the same trial that kind of everybody's run for 510(k) approval. These are non-inferiority trials. They are designed to show safety and efficacy. It's 100 patients, a bit more, typically 100 to 150 patients. The data, FDA has been happy with that data, and we have clearance for the catheter. But really, when you look at it, and we've been able to show, as I said, the largest of the near zero blood loss, right? And we've been able to show, large catheter performance in a small catheter. So I think we feel very good about that. We've got more things planned, but from a clinical data perspective, we're showing the features people want. And this ties into, I think, the fundraising, which you mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so we recently did close a fundraising, a Series C of $80 million. Wow. And it was interesting how that fundraising came together. It came together quite organically. The 2 lead investors. So one was Gilda Healthcare, who had been the largest investor and shareholder in Inari until the sale to Stryker. So they obviously couldn't invest in a new technology until they were, not conflicted from an old technology, but a group that really has a deep history and knowledge of the thrombectomy space, a deep knowledge and connections with many KOLs, and who also believe that this space still has a long way to go, right? Both in terms of technology development, but also in terms of just market growth, right? All the tailwinds and dynamics that I talked about, they see that very clearly. So they actually came to us and said, hey, we think you guys have really got something. This doesn't always happen, fundamentally. Like I've chased a lot of VCs in my life, and including Gilda several times. So like, it's a good day when that happens. They say, look, we got a hypothesis. This is great. We want to do, diligence. Would you guys, think about us investing? And I said, we know we're going to commercialize. We're going to need a lot of money. Let's start down this road together. You guys know this space. So if I can't answer a question you've got, I better figure out how to answer it. And so we went through a period of that dynamic process of, them really understanding what we've got, talking. I think they talked to over 40 physicians independently, and so really came to see the world and the world in the way that we see it, right? And so that felt great. They wrote us a term sheet. We negotiated and signed it, and then we looked for who the other partner would be. And Norwest Capital, who I'd known from previous things as well, they did something interesting. And I didn't know about this until they actually signed the term sheet. But they sponsored a study externally, and they went out and they asked 100 physicians, this agency, asked 100 physicians, like, what do you want in a new technology, right? To switch. What are the features sets that you want? So this wasn't us, right? This was just like, blind. These physicians were blinded. They're all PE operators, ICs, IRs, vascular surgeons, large hospitals, small hospitals, the spread. They all came back and said, our frustration is around procedural burden, blood loss, clinical uncertainty, not lack of efficacy. The ideal profile device for PE is efficient, effective, and safe, obviously. High maneuverability, exactly what we offer. So single pass, go in once, go anywhere you want to do, take it out. 1.1 passes per procedure. That is by far better than anyone has ever done. I think the published data for Inari is closer to 3.7. So, truly an innovation to just do a single pass. They want small intermediate bore access. As I said, that's natural. Everybody wants smaller, right? This is just intervention, right? They want minimal blood loss with blood return. So they want blood return integrated with the system, and they want real-time feedback in terms of being able to puff contrast, being able to measure the pulmonary artery pressure during the procedure. So, Norwest turned around and said, they wrote your product spec. Thank God you already developed the product, right? So then that came together. We already had 2 strategics invest in the company. Another strategic came along and said, hey, we'd really love to get in the round. It was tough because everybody wanted more of the round. We capped it at 80. And so there was a bit of a tussle, but we squeezed them in. And so that's how that came together. And that's our commercial round. It takes us out quite a while, and it allows us to begin the process of competing in what is a tough market, right? These are smart, capable companies with solid technologies. And we certainly respect that, and we've got to earn our place in it. But our team is, just super happy with the team we've got. The innovation in our pipeline is, I like to say, if you're chasing what you see today, we're not going to be there when by the time you chase that, because we have submissions going in all the time. And so we continue to innovate and take the technology forward, as should everybody. That's the whole point. We should not be alone. I think everybody does have stuff in the pipeline, and that's what makes it competitive and exciting, right? So because patients are going to benefit, and let's compete in the marketplace, right? Let's see what doctors want, right? And if doctors want it, then it's probably best for patients. So let's go do it. That's me talking a lot, but happy to answer questions or.
No, that was, we covered all the bases, and I love your passion and the tech platform and where you're headed with this, and real exciting about the clinical studies and the funding, huge around there. And it's always better, you mentioned Northbourne, I think, right? You said
Norwest,
Norwest. Inbound, they came to you, right? You knew them, but you reached out to them, but they came to you. That's always the differentiator.
Yeah, and it happens. We're not unique, right? Because I think I think there are a lot of VCs out there who follow spaces for a long time. I mean, God knows, there's spaces that we haven't fixed yet. Heart failure, there are tons of spaces out there that you need to invest multiple technologies over time. You know, Again, this is part of just having been through a bunch of startups. I was first employee at LimFlow and taking all the
Mm.
way that through several rounds, taking this company through 2 rounds now. Been done the game a few times, and you just see the patterns of how things work. And this is a space where there's tremendous interest. I mean, we saw Stryker buy Inari for thrombectomy.
Yeah.
Certainly, Boston buying Penumbra.
Recent.
Thrombectomy is a big part of that story. So is neurovascular, but thrombectomy is a big part of that story. And we see a ton of strategic interest in terms of participation with us, but I think the big companies look around and say, this has got a real space that's got legs, and it's going to grow, right? And if you develop great technology, you can compete and take share.
Yeah.
And I think that we all look for those kind of spaces. So I feel like we feel lucky to be in such a growing space, and again, pay all credit to the companies who really did the hard work of developing these spaces. I've done that stuff before. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But now many more patients are getting the care they need than were. So.
And that's what it's all about in the end, right?
It's what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you got to think about how you spend your days on the planet. And I don't sell bubble gum for a living.
Yeah.
I sell medical devices.
Yeah.
So and I'm really proud of that, and proud of LimFlow, and when you can bring something new, it's really an incredible experience and bonds a team together in an extraordinary way. So
Excellent. This has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you walking through the tech and sharing where you're at with clinicals and funding, and we're real excited to follow you going forward. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Dan.
thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure.